But before we get to that, obviously, I want to talk about this that just came out. This is literally breaking news. Benjamin Netanyahu already revealed that he had the plan to permanently militarily occupy the Gaza Strip, which they have entertained over and over again since October 8th. And virtually everyone said we were insane for this claim, right? And this past week, they officially announced it. And now this is the first Western press hit that Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. This is his revelation, okay? So when Mike Huckabee's like, oh, well, if they're doing a genocide, they're doing such a bad job, it's like, it's so fucking stupid. They have been doing it. They haven't even hid it. They haven't even done a good job hiding it. And I'm sorry, at this stage, if you don't recognize what's going on, you're a fucking moron. Like, really? You just are that oblivious? You're that obtuse? You are that lacking of critical thinking skills that you just look at the situation and you're like, I guess it just doesn't make any sense because the media keeps saying that, like, Hamas is fucking up the ceasefire negotiations over and over again, even though Israel is killing all the fucking negotiators. Israel is regularly saying that they don't want to stop the process of destruction. Like, I don't understand. I truly cannot comprehend how at this stage people are still looking at the situation and going, I don't really know. I don't really know what's going on. It seems like it's too complicated. I guess there still are people because the mainstream press has completely worked not at the interest of defending the truth or accurately communicating what's going on in Gaza or the political dynamic or the negotiations process between Hamas and Israel and who the actual fucking responsible party is for the destruction of the dog. Why don't you play Battlefield 6? I don't know, man, because there's fucking real shit happening. Shut the fuck up. I'm a political commentator. What do you mean? Fucking, why aren't you playing Battlefield right now? What are you, stupid?
At home 2 hours ago, here in Jerusalem, I sat down with an exclusive interview with the Israeli Prime Minister.
Mods, you can unban him.
25 minutes on
he didn't deserve a perma.
Right before a significant meeting is about to happen. As you know, the fate of the hostages is still out there. As you know, there are allegations against this government for genocide and starvation. There are questions about his relationship with Donald Trump, even Vladimir Putin. Israel's long-term plans for Gaza and how they achieve a lasting peace is still an open question tonight. We mentioned we're almost 2 years into this war. This country's tired, but they're still fighting. Here now. Yeah,
dude, this framing is so psychotic because it presents Israel as the victims, okay? Like, they are this is a way to structure the conversation as though it's a David and Goliath situation where Israel is the David and not the Goliath, okay? Oh, they're so tired, but they're still fighting. It's like, bro, what do you mean? Oh, they're tired from murdering babies? Wow, dude, I'm so sad. I'm so fucking sad that Israel is too tired in its unlimited baby murder campaign. That is crazy. And this is, by the way, to this introduction is to the baby murderer himself revealing his final solution, like making it public knowledge in the Western world. That's how you're introducing the conversation, showing it as though Israel is the real victim here. Why? At first, it was victimized on October 7, not because of the inevitable backlash that, like, its apartheid regime would withstand, but Israel is the victim of on October 7 because of unlimited anti-Semitism, right? And now Israel is still the victim 22 months after October 7, where they're just too tired to keep killing children and starving children. They're so tired. Holy fuck, dude. They are Nazi baby murderers. Oh.
The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, on all those topics and more. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time today.
Well, glad to see you again.
Thank you. After this interview, you will go immediately into a meeting with your security cabinet. Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance.
Brother, oh my Lord. Yeah, he's trying to liberate the Gazans, bro. Liberate them from their fucking bodies, okay? By killing them. This is illegal, by the way, under international law. Everything Israel does is illegal. Israel is an illegal entity, okay? Israel, in the way that it currently exists and has expanded so consistently, has violated numerous international laws. It does not matter. International law only matters as far as someone, as far as there is, people who are willing to entertain international law, to regulate it, okay? It's just ridiculous. International law is inconsequential. Can't wait to see all the Israel-Ukraine motherfuckers coming out against this like they did with Russia's invasion. Surely it will happen. No, they won't, because they're fucking dick riders of American imperialism and Western imperialism in general. Okay? It's... Oh. In the simplest terms, whatever America says goes, okay? That's it. If America doesn't think what Israel is doing is bad, then it doesn't matter. Israel can do whatever the fuck it wants to. Yes, he wants the population to be free of Gaza. That's what it was a Freudian slip, but, it's more honest than anything else he said.
That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas. And you were in the Gaza Strip today. You met Palestinians who are fighting Hamas because finally they see that they have a future. They can rid themselves of this awful tyranny that not only holds our hostages, but holds 2 million Palestinians in Gaza hostage. That's got to end.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip, as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas. The only way that you're going to have a different future is to get rid of this neo-Nazi army. The Hamas are monsters. Look at what they're doing to our people. Look at what they're doing to the way they massacred, raped, beheaded our people, our men and women, burned our babies. And they are really cruel to their own people, because when we try to take them away from the combat zones, they shoot them. They want people to be civilian casualties. They want a starvation policy that they themselves are trying to put into being, and we're doing everything to reverse that. They have to go. I think President Trump has said it. You have to see two things in Gaza. You have to see Hamas eliminated, and you have to have the hostages released, and he's absolutely right.
There are 20 hostages that the Israelis believe are still alive. And in recent events, the closer the IDF got to them, many of them were killed. Are you prepared for that?
We're doing everything in our power to salvage the hostages. We've, in the beginning, the second day of the war, I think, a senior command official in Israel said, you're going to have to get used to the idea that we're not going to see any of them alive. And I said, no, I don't agree with that. I think with a combination of the right military tactics and international pressure, we can get all of them, and certainly most of them, out. So far, we got out of 255, we've got 205 released. 148 of them are alive. Nobody believed that. And I believe we can get the others but we have to combine the right tactics, military tactics. Without military pressure, nothing works.
Yesterday, I spoke with LaRon Berman. He has
Once again, the only successful hostage extraction, with one exception, has been through the process of hostage negotiations. Okay? Also, here's another incredible moment. Via Amit Segal, the Trump administration is considering granting U.S. citizenship to 20 living hostages in Gaza to increase the chances of their release. This motherfucker will do anything but put an end to the genocide, bro. I swear to God. I also think that, like, this is the type of shit that's really going to piss off his base. Like, who is this fucking for, man? Take Israel's dick out of your fucking mouth for 1 second and try to think. Like, this is crazy. I'm not a fucking firm and committed believer in the whole, like, Benjamin Netanyahu as compromat on fucking Donald Trump shit. Like, that Mossad has, like, a compromising footage of Donald Trump. But every single day, he behaves like a man who's caught fucking children, okay, in the archives of, like, Unit 8200's basement or something. Like, every other day, he behaves as though there is just photographic evidence of his fucking pedophilia or something. I don't understand what this is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I know people will fucking clip this and be like, Hassan doesn't want the hostages to be released. It's like, dude, there is a solution to fucking releasing the hostages. It's called ending the fucking genocide. What the fuck is happening, man? Also, the main point of contention here is not even the remaining prisoners of war, who are all Israeli military members, for the record. Okay? That is an issue, certainly, but there's also a fucking genocide happening. Like, what are we talking about? Let's say every single prisoner of war has been released. Israel is still continuing its death and destruction campaign, its starvation campaign. Okay, so do we just turn a blind eye to that atrocity? Do we just go, all right, well, the hostages are out. Who gives a shit? I know for many people, it's over after that point. They don't give a fuck. They're like, yeah, okay, time to nuke the strip now in its entirety. Glenn Greenwald, Times of Israel blogger, strongly suggests and then threatens that leaks about Trump's involvement with Epstein are Israel's punishment for Trump's refusal to bomb Iran more. He warns it really doesn't pay to start up with Israel. Read. What? Trump and his administration criticized Netanyahu and Israel, and now the Epstein files are haunting him. For a long time, the files had subsided in the background. They weren't considered to be much of a threat to Trump, but all of a sudden, right after he started up with Israel... No, I think this person is just like fucking... This person is just using the current thing that people care about to make this kind of like sinister take, as though, yeah, I don't think that he's just like connecting dots. And this will work for a lot of people, I think. A lot of people will like lean into this. Why the fuck would Israel compromise its own assets if Epstein is a Mossad agent? Why would Israel burn their own Mossad agent with its own, trove of pedophilia archives? For a long time, the files had subsided in the background. They weren't considered to be much of a threat to Trump, but all of a sudden, right after he started up with Israel, the files surfaced, and they seemed to be overwhelming him. Trump blasted Bibi after the shrapnel hit a church in Gaza. The church is in a war zone. It was not targeted. Rather, shrapnel from a nearby explosion hit it. Still, Trump berated Bibi and demanded he publicly express regret. Huckabee also chimed in, blasting Israel for withholding visas from evangelical groups. It seems that Israel wants to first ensure that the groups don't plan to missionize, but Huckabee seems insensitive to Israel's concerns. Saying Mike Huckabee seems insensitive to Israel's concerns is the most insane thing you can say. Mike Huckabee wants a greater Israel project to continue more than like half of Israeli society. And those motherfuckers certainly want it too. Okay. The other side of this is a lie. Like Israel obviously blew up the fucking church. Like the idea that this was like a random incident or something is bullshit. They did it on purpose, and it doesn't matter because what the fuck are you going to do about it is the attitude that Israel has in this process. And they should have this attitude because what the fuck can we do about it? We literally can't do anything about it because our politicians have Israel's dick so far lodged, so far up their fucking spine that the Israel's dick is doing the talking for them like a goddamn puppet. Holy fuck. And now some old files are threatening him. Perhaps Trump will realize that it really doesn't pay to start up with Israel. Perhaps those implicated in the files will express contrition and regret, because when, by divine providence, things that were hidden become revealed, it enables people to correct their mistakes and to endeavor to live their lives properly the way God wants them to. It's so fucking nutty, man. It's nutty. It is so insane. These motherfuckers are like the arrogance of pro-Israeli people at this stage is what is so mind-boggling to me. Like, it just straight up like the most annoying version of doing this like whiny, cancel culture focused, hysterical way of being a Nazi. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I feel like historical fascist movements were not this like fucking whiny and entitled and arrogant, or maybe they were. I don't know. But it's just like we've never experienced this dynamic before because we've never had a situation where like Nazi Germany was building its own industrial base to conduct its endless bloodshed campaign at the behest of this Ubermensch, at the behest of like a greater neo-Nazi project, right? So they weren't like constantly fucking chirping. They were definitely chirping similar to Israel when they were talking about like, well, England has colonies. We're little old Nazi Germany. Why do you think we're doing the colonizing, right? Like they would do shit like that. But like it wasn't as consistent because there was no return on that kind of chirping because we were antagonistic, especially after a certain point, to Nazi Germany as a foreign state. Whereas Israel cannot conduct anything without America's go-ahead. Israel cannot conduct any of its war campaigns, any of its belligerent death and destruction campaigns in any number of different countries that unfortunately happen to be Israel's neighbor without America's fucking endless supply of munitions. So with that dynamic in play, it blows my fucking mind that like Israeli envoys are so openly arrogant, so openly entitled. Like some of these motherfuckers, I feel like do legitimately believe that they are, you know, God's chosen people. Like, this is, what do you mean? Of course I'm going to do a genocide. Like, what the fuck? It blows my mind. Like, I always assume that people are cynical. They're cynically saying things like, no, God gave me the right. Israel was there 3,000 years ago. Fuck you're going to do about it. Like, when someone says that, I don't think that that person has internalized that fucking sentiment. I think that they're just simply saying that, right? To get other people on board, to get other people that are in the margins on board with that kind of thing, if they're also from the same, that exhibit the same like tribalist politics, right? But I think some of these motherfuckers truly are like, no, dude, what do you mean? Like, this is the cancer of Kahanist politics and Kahanist Judeo-supremacist ideology taking over so many different subsects of Israeli society. Hypocrisy and generalizing as fuck. No, I don't think you're understanding the words that I'm using here. I'm not saying every single Israeli is like this. I'm saying that it's shocking that there is more and more pro-Israel people who speak like this otherwise formerly far-right subsect of Israeli society that was considered a fucking aberration, that was considered terrorists. Do you not understand? This is how fascism manifests. Like the whole notion of you know, the Goyer cattle, like all that kind of stuff. Like that's just like, that's just a small sliver. It's supposed to be a small sliver of Israeli society. It's not supposed to be like written about in fucking Times of Israel. You know what I mean? And it's crazy to me that like there is there is just like so much momentum in that direction. There's so much momentum in that direction. Hey, Hassan, a couple days ago you were saying this is a war about land acquisition and not a religious war. Can you say where I can read more about that? I would like to know more. All wars are about land acquisition. Like every single war is about extraction of natural resources, land acquisition, enslaving the population, and using the labor force. That's just what all politics is about in its most like at its most primitive state. It's just that religion and religious undertones are a galvanizing force that people use to get people on board. That's it. No, man, don't trivialize this. What do you mean, don't trivialize this? That's what it is. This is not trivial. This is just factually accurate analysis. Anyway, Hamas has responded to Benjamin Netanyahu's claims, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's continue.
Two brothers.
Yes.
His family believes they are still alive. Mm-hmm. He said the following: my advice to you, speaking to the Prime Minister, by all means necessary, we need to bring them back for stability in the region, for the future of Israel. It's a tough decision, but we will handle everything, meaning Israel. What do you say to the family?
I tried to mention this yesterday, but we'll see how successful they are in their attempt to occupy all of Gaza when they are being forced to make reserve battalions with soldiers up to 50 years old due to lack of manpower. I know. They can't do that without like forcibly conscripting the Haredi population, which will cause tremendous internal strife in Israel, in Israeli politics, because the Orthodox will say, fuck no, okay? And even with the Haredi population that is like even less trained than the average diaper force military commander who gets fucking smoked because they can't stop smoking cigarettes right next to a goddamn window in clear sight of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad or Al-Qassam Brigade sniper in the immediate vicinity. So they have to get like American contractors to make up for that lack of experience that they have. There's just no way, I think, there's just no way that Israel could just like maintain a permanent occupation of the Gaza Strip. I mean, it's tiny. The Gaza Strip is a tiny sliver of land. So I guess it's not as difficult as like Russia permanently occupying the entirety of Ukraine or even the eastern Ukrainian territories for a decent number of years. But but even then, they just can't do that without full ethnic cleansing, which is why I think they are trying to do full ethnic cleansing. Like at most, they will try to turn the Gaza Strip into a West Bank style structure with a civil governance division that is tied to Israel in the same way that the Palestinian Authority is. Okay. And then continue whatever the fuck they're doing in the West Bank, in Gaza, which is, pogroms, more land acquisition, and the inevitable expulsion of every single person. They did it pre-2003 and they were doing all right, killing Palestinians daily. I know, but the difference is post-2005, there is like a decent amount of militancy that has grown. Okay? That's a major difference. You're talking about a time when Palestinians, a decent number of Palestinians still were like holding on to some semblance of hope in the negotiations process. It was coming to a close. Like this was the end stage of like what the so-called peace process was looking like. Having said that, there wasn't as much militancy. That's the reason why Hamas was able to gain so much prominence in the elections, because they were a militant force. and they were seen as uncorrupted by Israeli influence, as opposed to Fatah, because Fatah was the Palestinian Authority, and the Palestinian Authority is a part of the Israeli security apparatus. So that is the reason why Hamas even won the elections to begin with. And I think the environment, the dynamic has changed so much more than that. Do you think they're also doing this to hide the actual death toll once this genocide is over? Yes. That is the major reason. As I said time and time again, Israel cannot do a permanent ceasefire because once the dust settles and there are inevitably there are going to be Western forces that intervene. There's going to be Western journalists that go in. There's going to be Western investigators that go in. And when the dust settles and they see the true magnitude of this genocide, it's fucking over. It will be super over for Israel. It's already over for Israel, but it'll be even more over than it ever was before. And that is precisely the reason why they cannot do a ceasefire. That's why they don't want to do a ceasefire. That's why I've said it over and over again. A permanent ceasefire spells doom for Israel, and that's why they won't do it. What will happen as a consequence for Israel, though? I mean, we have significant limitations in what kind of will that we can impose on our politicians because, as I've said over and over again, there is no real democracy in America. Or what people think is the democratic process is simply a ruse. Okay? And I think either people recognize that and then continue the pressure campaign to a degree where it becomes like untenable and unsustainable by American interests. So they have to like create a, like release a pressure valve or diminish our unlimited loyalty to Israel a little bit. Now, new polling showing it's not just Democratic voters calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide anymore. Likely voters believe it is by a 14-point margin. Do you believe that Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinians, Palestinian people living in Gaza? All likely voters, 47%, August 2025. 33% say Israel's not committing a genocide against the Palestinian people living in Gaza. It's so fucking crazy that there's still this many people that say Israel's not committing a genocide. It's just the truth. Oh. Doubt the average American knows what genocide are exactly. Yeah, you can get 30% of Americans to believe anything.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. People say you can't both release the hostages and eliminate Hamas, and I disagree. I think so far we've shown that we can, and I intend to complete the job. But we have three missions. One, to eliminate the Hamas as a governing and military power in Gaza. Otherwise, there's no future for anyone. And we'll have many more kidnappings and many more hostages. Second, achieve the liberation of all our hostages. And third, make sure that Gaza doesn't pose a threat to Israel again. And we're well on our way to achieve all three. Now,
this is why I get mad about the Israeli security argument. Like, oh, Israel can never be secure unless like Palestine is a state. This is what pisses me off about this, because that's the argument that they make. If the security of Israel is your primary fucking concern, or is even a remote concern at all, then that means you're open to potentially an unlimited death and destruction campaign in Gaza, because that will also offer permanent security to the state of Israel, you know? It's just you guys want the same things. Benjamin Netanyahu has a different method. That's it. Is this in Pam Bondi's office? No, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's wife. I have the Palestinian resistance with all its factions united on the battlefield, and any occupation decision will be returned to where it came from. Defeated and broken as always. The enemy is deluded if it thinks it will release its prisoners from our grip by military force, and we affirm that its prisoners will only be released through the gate of negotiations at a high price. The threat of a full military occupation in Gaza is a declaration of genocidal intentions and a desperate attempt to subjugate our people and resistance, intentions that will not pass without a heavy price, and the field will be the decisive factor as always. It's true. The field is the decisive factor. And in spite of the overwhelming force that the Israeli genocidal forces have demonstrated time and time again, they have had their shit pushed in over and over again. They keep getting smoked. This is a completely diminished force, a completely diminished resistance force on the ground. And they're still able to fucking incur penalties. They're still able to deliver penalties to the Israeli diaper brigade. Okay? It's crazy. Now think about that resistance network continuing to exist. Think about that resistance network continuing to exist while Israel tries to do a military occupation. It's fucking reservists are killing themselves with regular frequency every fucking week because they're like, we killed too many children and I can't deal with it any longer. I'm going to kill myself. And now your numbers are diminishing. The enthusiasm for the unlimited baby murder is going away because people are too scared to continue doing baby murder because there are repercussions for it. They also realize that when you do that baby murder and you then fucking fly out of Israel to go somewhere because you want to go to Megaloth or whatever, okay, or when you want to go to Greece or whatever, people look at you and go, you were in the IDF? Oh, so you're a baby killer. And they don't like that either because Israeli society has broadly enjoyed being Western aligned, okay, since its fucking inception. That's the only way that you can get people to go and live in Israel and then travel freely to the Western world to the best of their ability, okay? But now, if they can't do that, now if there's an academic boycott, for example, all of a sudden, all of the prestigious Israeli institutes fall apart. And that causes people to be like, I'm not Israeli, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? That really gums up the works for the Zionist project. When you got people who are embarrassed to be Israeli, when you get people who are scared to admit that they are from Israel, because Israel is a fucking Nazi country. And now the world is aware of it. The global South was always aware of it, but now even the Western world and the Western populations are aware of it. So you can't, the cat's out of the fucking bag. You cannot try to implement a censorship regime to forcibly make people like Israel. It's just not going to happen. That's it. Yeah, Israel's going to start putting Greek flags on their backpacks like Americans in the Canadian flag. The difference, of course, is that America is the hegemonic superpower on the planet. Okay? And America has a dominant cultural force in Hollywood. Do you understand? So America can still, with American culture and cultural imperialism, still like maintain some semblance of support around the globe. The only thing Israel is known for is genocide now. The fuck? At least America's known for Coca-Cola and Hollywood and shit. What does Israel have? Just genocide. Nobody gives a fuck about the pharmaceutical initiatives that Israel has taken, you know? They're just only known for genocide. And if that's the only thing you're known for, you're cooked. You're cooked. People are going to look at you and go, that's disgusting that you're from Israel. What the fuck?
Difficulties because there's so much vilification and misrepresentation in the press. There's an attempt to put blame on Israel for the interdiction of humanitarian supplies that Hamas is interdicting, and Israel is the international community is delivering the blame to Israel. They're doing everything to rob these food trucks. They're taking the food for themselves and then jacking up the price for the remaining supplies to their own population. That's monstrous.
We have seen some of that, and you're right about that. And you're also right that we went into Gaza while we've been here this week. And we were in the southern town of Rafah, near the Sinai Desert in Egypt. And that town has been flattened. And you have been accused of genocide. How do you respond to that?
Well, as Ambassador Huckabee said, if we're practicing genocide, we're surely doing a very bad job of it, because we could have, basically eliminated the entire population of Gaza, but we went the other direction. We did something that no army in history ever did. We're supplying humanitarian food to the...
There was one army that did that. The Nazis. You know?
The enemy's population, because we distinguish between combatants and non-combatants. We put in 2 million tons of food. I mean, if we wanted to commit genocide...
It's not even you giving the food, by the way. You are not letting the food in. So when you say, oh, we're delivering the food, he means like we're just letting in crumbs of food that the international community has sent in. Yeah, there's also moldy bread in some of the fucking dropped aid. These Palestinians ran for airdropped aid only to find moldy bread. Get a tarp and half a bag of bread. God is witness to what I'm saying. Half a bag of bread and it's rotten. Large Lebanese bread. This week, 6 countries coordinated aid drops across Gaza, but delivered only 120 packages total. Not nearly enough to help the over 2 million Palestinians living through Gaza's starvation crisis. Critics have called the drops a PR stunt. Aid organizations and experts say they are dangerous and ineffective. Yes, if you want the aid to fucking get in, you have to stop bombing the fucking... You have to stop bombing the strip, and you have to let the trucks in. It's pure evil. America did this shit before, where they dropped aid. Also, this was a year and a half ago almost, okay? When America did drop aid, and the aid fucking killed people. They got crushed under the aid. And then also, you don't know where the aid gets dropped. There's no guarantee that it's going to get dropped on the ground. So then it gets dropped on top of like buildings and shit. And then people climb up to those buildings and then die because they fall off of the buildings while they're trying to get the aid. It is a death trap. Again, the most effective way, if you want to fucking like actually feed the Palestinian population, the most effective way to do it is by the existing UNRWA facilities that already have, there's 400 points that they could use. The most effective way is by trucks. Okay? Yeah, here's a map of Gaza's 400 plus UN aid distribution points in stark contrast to the 4 GHF run sites, 3 in the south and 1 in central Gaza and none in the north. Each GHF site opens for only about 8 minutes a day, and all 4 are rarely open at the same time. Here's the Commissioner General of UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, saying, before the spread of famine, community-based distribution centers supported by partners provided food and assistance to 2 million people spread across the Gaza Strip. 5 months on the ongoing attempts to replace the UN coordinated response by 4 Israeli militarized distribution points, hunger has become the latest killer in Gaza. It's time for unhindered, safe, and dignified assistance. Let the UN and our partners do their job. I cannot believe that like Israel is such a fucking evil entity that like the United Nations is a breath of fresh air in comparison, because those guys also literally fuck up all the time. There are horrifying instances of like failure in Africa and in numerous other parts of the fucking world. Like this business is a demonic business. Okay, I know it sounds crazy to say because we're talking about like literally the United Nations is supposed to be great, and it's like Like they have always failed, partially because it's a difficult endeavor and partially because, when you're serving the most fucked over people in society, it doesn't matter if you're not great at your job. Okay. You can use and abuse people on your own. In this circumstance, though, they are literally angels. Okay. That is how fucked up Israel is, that the United Nations is angelic in comparison to the demonic shit that the Israeli diaper force is doing. It is fucking insane. And UNRWA in and of itself is obviously a much more effective mechanism of aid distribution because it literally is comprised of Palestinians. And it's not just an aid distribution mechanism that is successful, as we've seen, but it's also a way for Palestinians to have a job, right? And the reason why UNRWA has been decently successful in feeding the Palestinians and like being a lifeline for Palestinian existence is because of the 80 years of Israeli occupation. Because they had 80 fucking years to develop a successful, consistent aid delivery mechanism. Because Israel has been occupying the every facet of Palestinian existence and every facet of Palestinian livelihood for almost 80 fucking years. What is this? Mike from PA just spent 5 hours apologizing for using the word demonic. Yeah, I'm not speaking on his situation, but the Israeli Defense Force is conducting a genocide. Saying that this is demonic is appropriate, okay? Saying that the UN, which under other circumstances I would be very critical of, is angelic in comparison to what Israel is doing is also adequate. I'm not saying an entire ethnicity of people or even an entire nation of people are demonic or anything like that. So don't try to fucking slam words into my mouth. Anyway. We hope God will make it easy. Oh God, grant us. Come on, Omar.
شهداء والله العظيم باجي ما باخذ حاجه 65 سنه المريض سكر وضغط وازمه الله ينتقم منهم يا عم بدي كيلو بس ضعيف ما انا قادر اطعم مرتي وولادي ما في عندي ضغط عندي هم واحد ما في عندي مناجد العالم كله اللي بصير فينا في غزه هذا ظلم وجرائم حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
UNRWA has been like the #1 op for Israel in perpetuity because Israel's goals are ethnic cleansing. And UNRWA is a UN-backed institution that has kept Palestinians alive. And the past administration, the Biden administration, allowed Israel to kickstart the process of delegitimizing UNRWA and destroying it, okay? And of course, Donald Trump came in and slammed in the GHF initiative, the Gaza Holocaust Front, also known as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, so that they would be the sole aid distribution points for 2 million Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip. Their goal was never to feed the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Their goal was to kill as many Palestinians as possible, starve them quietly, hoping that this would just go away. That's why your pressure campaign is important, because you allow this issue to not go away. Okay? We cannot allow this issue to go away. We cannot allow people to turn a blind eye to the death and destruction that is unfolding in broad daylight under our watch. Do you think they're convincing people with their propaganda on the starvation? Fuck no. I don't think they are at all. Now may be a good time to mention the entire reason they want to destroy UNRWA is because they wish to completely destroy the Palestinian refugee question, because the agency was created to manage and handle all Palestinian refugees, both those within the occupied territories and those in exile, and they want to destroy the organization that would head the right to return if we were ever allowed to come back. Exactly. I love how openly they lie about these things when the Arrow unit, which was created by Hamas to go after those who loot aid, aka Abu Shabaab popular forces, and those who extort the population through price gouging. Yeah. Israel does not allow Palestinians in Gaza to travel anywhere, not even to the West Bank, let alone abroad. How to protect yourself abroad. That's the headline of Itamar Eichner's article on Yediot Ahronot, Israel's most popular paid newspaper, and it gives a disturbing insight into the level of concern among many Israelis who want to travel overseas but are worried about their safety. Recommendations include: don't make your Israeli identity obvious, don't wear shirts with Hebrew, and think twice before walking with a kippah or tzitzit, garments that are worn by religious males. Don't tell strangers that you're Israeli or Jewish. Don't post your travel plans on social media or revealing information / post about your trip in real time. I'll leave you with just one question. Is there any country that needs to warn its citizens to hide their identity when traveling overseas? There is currently, as it stands, okay, there are countries that I suspect do this. Russians probably, to a certain degree, do this. Americans also experience a level of shame, so they will claim that they're Canadian or whatever. But you're doing a genocide. Like, what do you mean? Of course there is going to be enmity. Of course there is going to be anger and resentment. You are a Nazi country doing a Holocaust in real time and simultaneously crying about how anti-Semitic people are for not letting you do your Holocaust with loud cheers. The fuck? Of course people are going to be like, you're Israeli? Oh, gross. The fuck do you mean? What is the expectation here? Is the expectation here that like people just like cheer when they hear that you're coming from the country that is now most known for baby killing? What the fuck? If you want to do reputation laundering, you have to tell the Israelis that we hear from on a daily fucking basis to stop saying Hitlerian shit in Hebrew, okay? Obviously, first and foremost, if there was a tremendous number of Israelis, specifically Israeli Jews, that were literally on the streets actively tampering the initiatives of the IOF, okay, it would be a little bit more defensible. But that doesn't even fucking exist. It's like marginal. Half of them are in this chat right now. It's fucking ridiculous. We see the polls. Blood is always drama farming, acting like the world is on fire. Me? You think I'm drama farming, acting like the world is on fire? As America's most important ally that has actively changed American legislation, American rules at their own behest, is conducting a starvation-backed baby murder campaign in real time, and you're like, oh, that's just drama, bro. The fuck? Is it drama? Have you said your 10 Israel highs today? Because you are going to El Salvador if you haven't, okay? Just wait. One day it'll come for you too, and then you'll be like, oh, I guess it wasn't drama. For an easy comparison with Nazi Germany, around 100,000 Germans were arrested by the Third Reich for resisting. No, it was 800,000, not 100,000. I mean, obviously a big chunk of those numbers are probably whatever the Nazis consider to be political dissidents as well. But yeah, there was a fuck ton of people who were actively fighting against the Nazis, actively fighting against the fascists in their own country. Yeah. That dumb fuck's like, yo, blood is drama farming, like the world is on fire. Okay, dude, wait till a fucking flood destroys your home, and then FEMA's like, hey, have you pledged your loyalty to the state of Israel yet? Because if you haven't, we're not going to give you any fucking aid. Okay? Then you'll know if it's drama farming or not. Some of you dumb fuck Americans do deserve that, though, low key. Like, straight up. Like, you want it so bad, bro. You want it so fucking bad. You're so blind. You're so deluded. You want it so fucking bad. Okay? Wait till Trump deports you so they can make space, make living space for some Israeli citizens. Okay? Space for data centers. What is this? If you were to take all... Okay, you guys are just having a combo. Yeah. FEMA comes in. They're trying to pull you out of the rubble after a tornado destroyed your house. And they're like, do you condemn Hamas? Do you love Israel? Do you love Israel? And if you don't quickly respond, or if your response is not sufficient, sorry, we're leaving you in the rubble, okay? Good luck. Have fun. Sorry, guess you got to die, dude. You're being quite anti-Semitic inside of that rubble.
We wouldn't give 2 million tons of food to the population. And also the reason you see the flattened buildings is because Hamas booby traps every single building. So when we come in, we first have the population moved, even though Hamas tries to keep them in the combat zones. But after they move, and we start to move into the neighborhoods that are now populated only by terrorists, they ignite these booby traps. So what we do is we put in an APC, an armored personnel carrier, with a lot of explosives, detonate it. It sets off all the booby traps, and the buildings begin to collapse as a result of that. They're empty buildings. They're not populated buildings. Secondly, they've built this underground terror tunnel network with billions of dollars that they had. They didn't build Gaza up. They built a Gaza terror city underground. So we now detonate the tunnels.
Can Fox not fact check any of this? Bro, CNN doesn't even fact check this. Why would Fox? Like, every single thing he's saying is insane and completely wrong. Okay? Is there a tunnel system under Gaza? Absolutely. That's how the fucking militants are smoking the Israeli troops. Except, once again, you don't have any right to keep killing Gazans. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Oh, there's a terror system. There's a terror tunnel system underneath. Okay, you have one too. The fuck do you mean? Do we just nuke Tel Aviv then? What are you talking about? Oh, our big, beautiful, strong boys are inside of the APC carriers, bro. They're inside of the APCs and they're getting their shit smoked, turning into a fucking $10 million coffin for them. Yeah, there's a reason Netanyahu is so eager to give interviews to Fox News whenever he has to manufacture consent for the next atrocity he's planning. It's because he knows nobody at Fox will ask any hard-hitting questions or call him out for peddling misinformation. To be fair, I don't think even fucking CNN would do that, but...
The tunnels explode, and they take down the buildings that are above the tunnels. And the reason you see this devastation is not because Israel is wiping out these structures filled with civilians. It's because they've been booby-trapped by Hamas, and that's the kind of warfare that we have to win.
I'm hearing you say that...
Man, it's so difficult. Okay, fuck off. I have a good solution to this. Fuck off. Okay?
You deny this charge of genocide.
Totally.
That's what you're saying.
Totally.
But last week, and you referred to it a few moments ago, President Trump mentioned the word starvation. And he pretty much said it is what it is from his observation, looking at video and pictures. Were you surprised by that?
No, look, I think President Trump has been terrific. He's supported us in so many ways. And he understands that we have to get rid of Hamas. He understands that Hamas is also using their own interdiction tactics to prevent humanitarian aid going. So there's been shortages, no question about that. There's been also suffering. And what I intend to do, with President Trump, we talked about that and agreed upon that, is to overcome this with a humanitarian surge. So we're opening up safe routes through which aid trucks can go through. We're going to try to quadruple the distribution points that are manned by Americans. And they're doing a hell of a job distributing food to Gazans without Hamas taking over the food. And that's really what we're doing. And airdrops that we intend to do, we're already doing. And we invite other countries to join us. So
I guess it's important to see how he's lying. I don't even know how to I don't know where to begin. Airdrops are not a sustainable way to deliver aid, okay? The international humanitarian organizations have all criticized the aid drops as the only aid delivery mechanism. As I already explained, there are 400 aid distribution sites inside of the Gaza Strip that were operated by the United Nations. Okay? There are thousands of trucks lined up outside of the Gaza Strip, filled to the brim with aid, waiting to be delivered. Israel is refusing to deliver this aid. They're just sending moldy bread and crumbs of food so that the international community can do a PR initiative and to allow Israel to continue its starvation, allow Israel to continue its genocide. The idea that they are going to permanently occupy the Gaza Strip militarily is, and openly admitting to that, is just an active recognition of the final solution. There is no permanent military occupation of the Gaza Strip by the Israeli state. This would be tremendously bloody for all of the Israeli military. They have to do this after genociding the entire Palestinian population. There's no other way that they can do this. And I suspect, and I mean, it's not even a suspicion at this point. We're seeing it unfold in broad daylight. They are trying to ethnically cleanse the entirety of the Strip. They're trying to kill as many Palestinians as they possibly can without basically a demand. Basically, what is this? Check logs. Apparently, the ADL demanded an interview about the play be taken down because someone in the video was wearing a keffiyeh. What? Oh, fuck the ADL. ADL can suck my dick. Okay? They are trying to play this song and dance in an effort to not have Western leadership basically say, we're going to invade Israel militarily. What the fuck are you doing? There is a permission structure that is consistently expanding, okay? And Israel is certainly doing everything it can to create this new permission structure. And that's why, even though they said they were doing a genocide from the jump, now they're openly recognizing that at this point, because after 22 months and no significant repercussions from any of these Western allies that supposedly care about human rights, they've realized no one's going to say anything. They don't even need to do PR. They've never had to do PR, and they realize that they don't even need to do active PR for this shit. We have basically slotted society into two categories, maybe three, but it's the people that don't really understand what the fuck's going on and don't care to, okay? There's still a decent number of people in that category. There's people that look at this and say, this is unconscionable, this is genocide, this is fucked up, this is completely unacceptable. And then there's the people who are just going to be pro-Israel no matter what, for a multitude of different reasons. Maybe because they fucking hate Arabs, maybe because they fucking hate Muslims and they think they're scary and barbaric and they hate refugees or whatever, okay? Or maybe because they think Israel has a religious reasoning for doing what it's doing, and that's good because the rapture is going to happen if Israel finishes its genocide. Or maybe because they love Israel and they have financial ties to Israel, okay? But regardless, there are three different groups of people out here at this point. The majority of them actually find what Israel's doing to be unconscionable, okay? The majority of them find what Israel's doing to be disgusting, gross, because it is. It is disgusting and gross. Completely unacceptable. It's a genocide. But as it stands, Israel recognizes that they have complete command over the situation, and no one in the Western world is actually going to do anything to put an end to it. Okay? That's why they have this comfort. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu is comfortable enough to go on Fox News to say, we're doing it. We're doing the full genocide. We're doing the full occupation because Hamas, because Hamas, because Hamas. Everything is because of Hamas. You don't need to, like, even if you look at this and it pisses you off, what the fuck are you going to do about it is the attitude. Okay?
Israel that's doing now and has been doing for some time an effort to give humanitarian aid to the population without letting the Hamas terrorists take it, steal it for themselves. And
what is this? It's the time of his life. One can literally feel it. Maybe because they are right, but it is moral. You think wiping out the entire Gaza Strip is moral? What a stain on humanity you are. This is why. Listen, this is why. This is why people say fascism requires you to kill your own humanity. Okay? Like at this stage, I'm sorry to your parents, to the people that you know and love. At this stage, if they're still actively defending Israel and actively defending Israel's actions, like, they have already lost the plot. They are no longer recognizable as like human beings that are capable of fucking empathy. Okay? They've killed their own souls. They've killed their own capacity to think like a human being. Because that level of dehumanizing the enemy, okay, requires you to dehumanize yourself first and foremost.
Has President Trump given the green light for your plan to take over the remaining 25% of Gaza and occupy all of it?
Well, you know, he understands that it's Israel who's going to do the fighting. It's not American soldiers.
Did he give you a yes?
Well, he just says, I know Israel will do what it has to do, and we haven't got into that kind of discussion. But we have gotten into a discussion on two things. One,
believe it or not, the Trump admin plans to further increase the reality distortion field. The Trump admin plans to dramatically cut criticism of human rights abuses in Russia, Israel, and El Salvador in the upcoming State Department reports. The Post compared drafts to past reports. It's just, reminder that every senator voted to confirm Marco Rubio. Oh, yeah. How can you blame Trump? He's literally on every page of every document Mossad has in possession. I know. He's the real victim here is not the starving children who are Palestinian, okay, that Israel is starving deliberately and killing. The real victim is Donald Trump. It's true. Virtually in every page of the Epstein files. What are you gonna do? You know, I guess we just gotta let Israel go crazy. How long are they going to pretend that Israel is still doing the right thing after they kill the last person from Gaza? I think at a certain point we have to recognize that, like, these guys are bad guys. That's it. I normally don't fall into the good-bad dynamic, but, like, yeah, the American politicians are evil people, okay? They are. They're evil. They're straight up fucking evil. They are Nazi collaborators. Israel is a Nazi country. Israel's actions are akin to the Holocaust, and American politicians who are refusing to listen to the cries of the Palestinian children and refusing to listen to the cries of their own constituents are Nazi collaborators. They're looking at all of this anger, all of this resentment, and turning a blind eye to it all and saying, well, sorry, we have to participate in this process. I can't hear you.
Humanitarian surge that we're going to do, which will precede our final military action, because I want the population to be in safe zones, to have food, water, sewage, electricity, medical help. I want to free 2 million Gazans from Hamas terrorism. The second thing that we agree on is that the day after has to have certain principles. I'm not talking about a detailed plan yet because I think that'll be developed. But the 5 principles, the key principles are these. 1, Hamas has to lay down its arms. 2, Gaza has to be demilitarized. 3, all the hostages have to be released. And 4, Israel will be responsible for overall security. So if there's an attempt to have a resurgence.
Like every single thing that he just brought up, with the exception of like allowing Israel to continue doing its genocide and occupy Gaza militarily, okay? And also the demilitarization side, which is insane. It's an insane demand to make while you're in the process of doing a fucking genocide. It's also an impossible demand to make in general. People are always going to take up arms against Israel, understandably. They have every right to do so. It is within their legal right to do so. It is their moral right to do so. Okay? Like with those 2 major exceptions, everything that he just described is literally the Hamas proposal. But of course, as time has moved on, Benjamin Netanyahu just kept adding additional qualifiers to it because he has no interest in actually coming to a reasonable conclusion here. He doesn't want a cessation of hostilities because he's fucking terrified that once the dust settles and people realize the true magnitude of his genocide, it's over. What I actually fear is maybe it's not over after the dust settles. What I actually fear is that like Western journalists go in, they cover it. All of these like humanitarian rights organizations go in and they cover the full magnitude, the full scale of the atrocities. The media still tries to do a pressure campaign, a censorship campaign, and people still go along with that same, now even more expanded permission structure for Israel. That is what I'm actually worried about. But I know that in his calculation, Benjamin Netanyahu worries that when they see the true magnitude, it will be undeniable that Israel has committed a genocide. And at that stage, I think the global community will take action against Israel. That is what he fears.
Hamas or resurgent terrorism, we're the ones who are going to take care of it. And 5, let Gaza be governed by a civilian authority that is not Israel, because I don't want to occupy Gaza forever. I don't want to govern Gaza. I want to have a different governance there that basically is willing to live in peace with Israel and give Gazans a different future. That's entirely different.
When I say, for the record, when I say like when the dust settles and people start seeing it, it'll become like even more undeniable. And you go, everybody already knows this. Yeah, except everybody already knew this a year ago. But look at the broader public sentiment now as opposed to a year ago. So things do actually move in the direction of the truth when it comes to Israel's actions. Like, think about the conversations that you probably had with your parents or with older people in your lives a year ago as opposed to now. And think about how much their opinion has shifted. There's still plenty of room for growth there as well, but there are still plenty of other people who are, holding on to something that is otherwise indefensible, that is indefensible. I think every single day, CNN Jerusalem correspondent Jeremy Diamond is one of the hundreds of journalists battling Israel to enter Gaza to report independently. He explains why without press freedom, there is no democracy. I mean, that's just, no shit. The international consortium of fascists is so devastating. Israel plays a formative role in this. They are fascists just like the Trump administration is, just like the AfD is, just like the nationalists are in France. They are all over. They have completely overtaken Western society, and they're so powerful an ideological force that even the supposedly leftist leadership, like in the Labour government in the UK, is totally capitulating or directly repeating the same exact fascist policies and the same exact fascist propaganda. It's so unimaginably cooked. It's so fucked.
From these unbelievable lies that are leveled against us, frankly, against...
No, obviously, Labor is not a left party any longer. I'm not saying that it's a left party. It's like the Democrats are the left party in America. Do you understand? It's supposed to be the viable, democratically electable counterbalance to the fucking growing fascist movement. It's not. And now Corbyn's party will take that space, and we'll see how. Just stop using the term left Assam, motherfucker. Man, shut up. Shut up. Okay? Even if it's a completely fucking fascist country, there is still supposed to be a left force that is still center right or far right. You can have two far right parties, and one is going to be more to the left than the other. That's what I mean. They're taking it all right. I know. The Greens have had, the Greens initially had a big resurgence, and now your party, 30% new, projected outcome in Keir Starmer's seat in Holborn plus St. Pancras projected result.
Me too, by the international press that doesn't care to check the facts. It just takes Hamas statistics, Hamas arguments. It just swallows them hook, line, and sinker, and delivers this vilification of the one democracy, the one Jewish state that is fighting people massacred. It's the equivalent of the massacre of thousands and thousands of Americans. The rocketing of American cities, nobody would stand.
Hi, Hassan. You talk a lot about the Israel-Gaza war, but I just wanted to know what you think Israel should do from this current situation. I'm assuming it's understood that you can't leave the kidnapped children of Israel and Gaza unless there's a part of your solution. I think it's a really difficult question, mainly because of the fuck situation. I really want to hear your take. It's not a fuck situation. Israel's doing a genocide and using the hostages cynically to fucking propagandize to continue doing its genocide. It's killed a fuck ton of hostages in the process. The children of Israel that are still, the kidnapped children of Israel that you're referencing are literally kidnapped from a tank and shit at this point. The only remaining quote unquote hostages are actually prisoners of war. They are military members. Okay. Not that it fucking matters because Israel doesn't give a shit about that. The Israeli government certainly doesn't give a shit about that. They've bombed the hostages. They fucking bombed the prisoners of war. They have starved the prisoners of war. They have starved them all the same as though they are regular old Palestinian citizens. Okay. The idea that this is a complex situation is ridiculous. It is not a complex situation at all. You're only trying to add complexity because it doesn't correspond to everything that you have been taught about a genocide, everything that you've taught about like a country conducting a genocide like this. Okay. It's not a complex situation at all. Hamas has brought forward numerous proposals at this point. Israel could have abided by any number of different ones. America has even added some moderate pressure, okay, upon Israel, but not enough. And the only solution here is to end the genocide. Hamas has already suggested that they would disband and dissolve. But in order for Palestinians to have sovereignty, they have to have a standing military. They have to have a standing military, and they have to have full sovereignty and take control over their own governance. There is nothing complicated about this. Hamas is just being used as a fucking scapegoat. It's that simple.
Joe Biden, which was a measly $551.
Anyway,
so,
Trump is live.
You gain 10 times more income for the average family than Joe Biden is because of your policies. And that's
Trump is live to lie about how the situation that you're experiencing in terms of the financial struggles is actually fake, and you're fake and gay for even recognizing it. Thank God he has a chart to tell us that actually every American is doing great.
So then we looked at which families did the best. And we have data from the Census Bureau that shows by income percentage. So the 25th percentile is the lowest income, 75th percentile is the highest income. And what I find fascinating about this, Mr. President, is every income group did better. The red is President Trump, the blue is President Biden. Every single income group did better under President Trump. But what's really amazing is look what happened under Biden. The lowest income group lost income under Biden. They were poor 4 years after Biden's presidency. No gain virtually whatsoever for the middle class. And the rich was the only group that did better under Biden, which is ironic because Biden keeps saying he was trying to get rid of income inequality. He made income inequality worse, not better. It was President Trump that reduced income inequality.
These numbers just came out, by the way.
And then finally, these are the numbers just I just showed you in percentage terms. Mr. President, these are the numbers in dollar terms. So even the lowest income, 25th percent, gained about $4,000 in income. That's a lot for a lower income family. $6,400 for the middle class and almost $10,000 for the richest. So you can see every income group did better under Trump than Biden by a wide margin. That's the story.
I think when you look at them, they're all something, but this one chart really says it better than anything. If you look at this is great, but this chart is pretty amazing right here. All new numbers.
Just came out, super fresh.
Okay. So we're going to go now over to East Room,
Okay.
and we're going to celebrate some very brave people with the Purple Hearts. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, just to follow up on the India tariffs, do you expect increased trade negotiations, since you've announced the 50% tariff?
No, not until we get it resolved.
Mr. President, does your deadline for Vladimir Putin agreeing to a ceasefire still stand tomorrow, or is that fluid now that talks
Say it, what?
Is your deadline still standing for Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire tomorrow, or is that fluid now?
It's going to be up to him.
And
We're going to see what he has to say. It's going to be up to him. Very disappointed. Yeah.
Do you have to meet with, does Putin have to meet with Zelensky in order and before you and Putin have to meet? Or are you
No.
Are you hoping
So you're
for
willing to, that's actually important because President Putin said this morning he was pretty dismissive of this idea of meeting with President
Who was?
Zelensky. President Putin was.
I don't know. I didn't hear
For you
him.
to meet with him, he doesn't have to agree to meet with Zelensky. Is that what you're saying?
No, he doesn't. No.
So when do you think that meeting
They would like to meet with me, and I'll do whatever I can to
They
stop
love
the
me.
killing. So
They don't like Disney. They
last
love me.
month, they lost 14,000 people.
Art of the
Killed.
deal.
Last month. Every week is 4,000 or 5,000 people. So I don't like long waits. I think it's a shame. And they're mostly soldiers. They're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers, and some people.
Yeah, he is
from
in a bad mood
the
today.
cities where missiles are lobbed in, and you'll lose 35, 40 people a night, which is terrible. But no, mostly it's soldiers, and you're talking about, on average, 20,000 a month. 20,000 people are dying a month. Generally young people, soldiers. We're going to, speaking about soldiers, we'll see you over for Purple Hearts.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you,
Thank you,
press.
Stephen
Thank
Moore.
you, press. Thank 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 you. Keep moving. Thank you. Thank you, press. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. President.
Bangavir says Palestinian prisoners should be shot and starved. I guess I just think that the Israel's national security minister bragging about starving Palestinian prisoners and putting a bullet in their head should have made the news. I'm surprised that I've had to dealt with the questions if the Palestinian prisoners have a fruit basket or not. And I say Palestinian prisoners must be killed, shot in the head. The law of executing prisoners will be passed on the third reading in the Knesset, and the law will mean we will give them a little to live on and nothing more. I mean, yeah, he also celebrated recently saying like they come in fat and leave thin when talking about starving prisoners. How many people in the West know that Israel's blocked the Red Cross from visiting Palestinian prisoners since October 7? Literally today, the state is in court seeking its 20th delay, citing national security. I'm telling you, it's the worst double standard there is. Anything Israel has ever claimed about Hamas, they have done a million times worse. It's not even a question, okay? It's not even a fucking question. Anything Israel has said about Hamas, they have actually done a million times worse. Anything Israel has claimed Hamas is doing, they've done a million times worse.
Come back to my experience inside Gaza this week. We went to an aid distribution site, food distribution site. Your own soldiers have been accused of killing innocent Gazans
Part of it, Mossab,
who are in line for food. That's the accusation, almost on a daily basis. Can you defend that?
Yeah, I could deny it because it's a Hamas accusation. They're the ones often who are doing the shooting and waiting for our soldiers to respond. And in fact, very often they don't respond. But all these stories are repeated ad nauseum, and the people don't even bother to check the facts. We're doing everything that we can to avoid civilian casualties. And in fact, if you look at it, I mean, the town of Rafah that you saw all that, right?
All of it.
Right, okay. So I told you why there was devastation, because we moved the population out and then went to and dealt with the booby traps that were there. And we killed a lot of terrorists there. You know how many civilians we killed there? Practically none. Why?
It's just everything he's saying is a lie. They leveled Rafah. They leveled every part of Gaza. They leveled it so much that they wanted it to be illegal for the aid distribution planes to have journalists on them to show the full magnitude of the death and destruction, which, once again, the aid drops and the planes do not even show the full scale of the death and destruction. He just keeps saying, everyone that we kill is Hamas. That's it. That's it.
Because we told them, please leave. We showered them with leaflets. We called them millions of text messages and many other means to get them out, and they walked out. They walked out 2 miles to the coast where they had a safe zone, and practically no civilians were killed. That nobody describes, nobody talks about. Israel is doing things that no army in history has done.
There's one army, once again. One army. The Nazi army, they did that. You know. They did that. It's not like a one-to-one comparison, but the motivating factors here are the same. A completely ridiculous ideology of ethno-religious supremacy and an exterminationist campaign to destroy the land, to rid the land of all of its inhabitants that do not subscribe to that ethno-religious ideology, ethno-religious supremacist ideology. Yeah. The fucking Nazis did that. And it's crazy that this motherfucker basically looked at that and was like, oh, this is a checklist for me, actually. It wasn't like an event, a horrifying dark chapter of history to learn an incredibly important lesson from. It was just a checklist. He was like, oh yeah, can't wait to do this to a totally other random group of people now. You know? So did the Turks too. Yeah, they did. Dumb fuck. Who the fuck's defending that? Am I? You know who is defending that? Or at least turning a blind eye to it? Fucking Israel. Suck my dick. What do you mean? So did the Americans. So did the Americans. Okay? The point is, you can't point to it happening in the past and be like, this was actually really fucked up when they were doing it, but when Israel's doing it, it's all right because they did it in the past too. The point is to learn from those lessons and not learn the lesson of what to do and basically do the exact same shit that the fucking Nazis were doing. The lesson is to never do that. Never allow this to happen.
Colonel John Spencer, who's the head of urban warfare studies at West Point, he said that he scoured all of his modern history. He said no army in the world has done that. And yet Israel is, of course, accused again and again and again by fake reports, by Hamas statistics that are fake.
Hamas statistics, Hamas. BBC's Jeremy Bowen. Israelis don't want us to film outside the window of the devastation in Gaza. Communities in the north of Gaza are flat. There's nothing left. Israel will not allow reporters like myself to enter the Gaza Strip to report the story, and they don't want us to see it.
My own eyes.
Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. I mean, look away, look away, look away, look away. Nothing to see here. The only reason why Israel can continue this propaganda initiative also is because of pure racism through and through. Because Palestinians do live there, and they have communicated their own demise. They show it with the limited amount of internet that they have. They literally film this shit and go, this is what they're doing to us. But because we are an incredibly racist fucking Western civilization society, okay, we don't even listen to them. At least you do. Many of you in here do that. And that's the reason why you're 3, 4, sometimes 5 months ahead of where mainstream discourse is going. Because for mainstream press in the Western world, it's only newsworthy when it's far too late to do anything about it. Only then do they ever cover the events that are unfolding. There is perhaps no better representation of this than the famine stuff that's going on right now. The famine discourse is going on. Famine doesn't happen overnight. There are food stockpiles that need to diminish, that need to deplete. Okay? So for months, we said Israel's blockade is going to lead to a famine. There is a percentage of the population of Palestinians that are actively speaking out and actively talking about massive inflation in the marketplaces and how little food they have in the Strip, that famine is imminent. Famine is imminent. Famine is imminent. It took hundreds of starving children to die and be photographed for people to finally go, okay, I guess famine did happen. How did this happen, though? We don't know. What do you mean we don't know? You don't listen to the Israelis that are saying famine is happening and we like it. You don't listen to the Palestinians that are saying we are being starved by Israel. And then after the events unfold and you start seeing the death and destruction, only then do you turn around and you go, okay, I guess it was happening, but how could this have happened? Why are you accusing your audience of being ignorant Americans? If we're ignorant, but we're watching you, why aren't you answering my text, Hamas? I'm floored this motherfucker said we sent them text messages. Okay, take a week off for that stupid fucking question, chatter.
If you repeat a lie often enough, it assumes the cachet of self-evident truth. It's still a lie.
Yeah, your chief of army says your military is exhausted. It's almost 2 years of war. And I mentioned 20 years ago this month, Ariel Sharon made the decision to get out of Gaza, bring the settlers out, and it's been that way ever since, and Hamas moved in. But you have 10 million people who live in this country.
That's right.
And they have a lot of opinions.
Yeah, well,
is it possible?
It's a democracy, you know.
Is it possible for you to keep Israel unified?
Why are you against tariffs? It's like taxes, but for non-Americans. With this money, we could have free healthcare and so on. Chatter, I think you fundamentally misunderstand how tariffs work. Number one, I'm not against tariffs, okay? I'm a leftist. I'm a socialist. Of course, I'm in favor of trade protectionism, but there needs to be trade to protect. Okay. In the absence of a competitive domestic manufacturing alternative, tariffs don't do anything other than raise prices. Tariffs, in the way that Donald Trump has done it, is basically a broad sales tax, a regressive tax, which hurts the working poor more than it hurts the wealthy. Okay? Because tariffs, the way that they work is they're not paid by the manufacturer. They're paid by the importer, the American company that is bringing in the raw goods, materials necessary for American manufacturing even, or if you're even importing products that you're getting from any number of these different countries. Okay? There are certain things that you simply cannot get, that you simply cannot make in the United States of America. For example, Donald Trump is entertaining additional tariffs for Brazil because he doesn't like that his bestie, former leader of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, tried to do an insurrection January 6th style, failed to do so, and is now undergoing the process of prosecution. So he decided to slap tariffs to the country of Brazil. Brazil is responsible for a sizable chunk of the meat that we consume in this country. Okay. Brazil also sends us coffee and chocolate. Coffee, especially, is region locked. We just simply cannot produce coffee here. Okay. We can't do it. So what do? So when you slap tariffs on a country like Brazil, and they're responsible for sending us coffee beans, okay, something that we simply cannot produce in large enough quantities in this country, okay? Even with Hawaii and Puerto Rico chatters, remember, we do not have enough coffee bean production in this country to make up for the additional limited supply. Why do I say this? Because here's how tariffs work. Brazil sends in coffee. There's an importer that takes coffee beans and sells it to distributors, sells it to coffee shops, sells it to roasters, whatever, right? That person is now paying for the tariffs because it's an entry fee, okay? That American company is now paying for the tariffs. So there's two things that they can do. The American company can either eat the cost of the tariff, and in certain instances, so fucking large of a percentage of price increase that it's virtually impossible for them to eat the cost of the tariffs, okay, which would lower their profit margins. Or they just no longer fucking import the coffee beans. But if they do continue to import the coffee beans, they will carry on that cost to the consumer. It will increase the price of the coffee bean by whatever percentage the tariff is. And then the roaster will also have to increase the coffee bean roast, the price of the coffee that is ground up. You as a consumer will see that as inflation. You as a consumer will go and purchase this coffee either at Starbucks or wherever the fuck you purchase your coffee, and you will see an increased price on your coffee. This is because of the tariff. This is how tariffs work. So you're wrong. It's not like taxes, but for non-Americans, because Americans will be paying the tariffs. You as a consumer will be paying this because the way it works is like a broad sales tax. Okay?
Almost 2 years into this war.
Oh, I'm sure we can. I mean, there's
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Who taught you that the tariffs were being paid by non-Americans? I want to know who's misinforming the youth. Where'd you learn that? What do you mean? What do we do without coffee? Drink tea, I guess? Okay, dude.
there's an organized and systemic.
I saw it on TikTok. Okay, well, that person, you shouldn't trust whoever taught you that on TikTok because they're wrong.
Against them.
And they're biased. And they're trying to defend Donald Trump by lying to you.
That's part of democracy. I accept it, although a lot of it is foreign funded by the same people who also encourage the demonstrations on your campuses and so on. But I'll tell you one thing, the people are united. Not every last one. This is not a dictatorship. But, you know, when it's a seven-front war, and look at what we did. You know, we were attacked. We were on the verge. Everybody thought this is the end of Israel on October 7th, when Hamas cruelly invaded us and those monsters took the hostages and murdered the men and raped the women and beheaded, it's beyond belief, and burned babies, okay? And everybody said, oh, Israel is gone. And I said on the second day of the war, I said, we're going to change the face of the Middle East. And we went against Hamas, then we went against Hezbollah, the terror proxies of Iran. Then we had the downfall of the Assad, the murderous Assad regime in Syria. And then we went after Iran, and President Trump joined us, which was a magnificent act of solidarity against a common enemy. Everybody said, oh, well, you know, Israel is not going to be together, but it is. Now we have to complete the job of eliminating basically the last proxy of Iran that's still standing.
And this is your job to sell it to your people.
Well, I don't have to. Believe me, the people are selling it to me. You know, I go into Gaza as you went in. You've been to Rafah? I've been to Rafah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Talk to the soldiers. Talk to the division commanders. You know what they tell me? They tell me, Prime Minister, don't bother with the press. Just press on with the mission of liberating Gaza from these murderers. And we can do the job. We can separate the civilians from the combatants. We can eliminate Hamas. We can liberate the remaining hostages. Let us do the job. That's what the soldiers that cut across Israeli society are telling us. Doesn't mean that they make it to the mainstream channels. Doesn't mean that they make it to the foreign press. In fact, they don't. But if I had to run the country based on these vilifications, you know, I shouldn't be here. Because leaders should do what is right and what will withstand the test of time. And what will withstand the test of time is that in an hour of peril, Israel didn't slumber like other democracies often do. In the face of this challenge to our existence, we took on a seven-front war, won it, and secured the peace, and expanded the peace after this victory, expanding the Abraham Accords, creating a different Middle East. That's what we're in the process of doing.
This is why I said what I said about the Nelk boys. Like, this is why I said what I said to the Nelk boys. This conversation taking place is even more damaging than the fucking Nelk boys' stupidity here. Okay? This is a reputable media institution. Reputable. It's not, but it's reputable for your dumb fuck parents, unfortunately. And no pushback whatsoever, just a continuous stream of fucking lies. Just like the Nelk boys did. But this time it's an adult. It's an adult with influence over your parents.
The last part is hard, but it's doable, and we'll do it.
Let me come back to the Abraham Accords, because the president made news on that earlier today. In America, there has been a considerable rise in anti-Semitism, especially on American.
Nelk boys are adults too. Yeah, but they carry themselves as man-children.
College campuses.
Yeah.
How did Israel, especially for Americans under the age of 30, young Americans, how did Israel lose this argument? Or maybe the better question would be, how do you win them back?
Well, I think we will. First of all, you win by winning and shortening the war. And President Trump has given us the support to finish this war as quickly as possible. Of course, we have to contend with a campaign of vilification that is done by so-called reputable news media. I mean, the New York Times puts out a major story on the front page, a Palestinian mother holding a child, starved supposedly, and then it turns out that that child has cerebral palsy. It's a congenital disease. He has a brother who's well-fed, family is well-fed, but it's put out this thing, and then it corrects it with a denial the size of a postage stamp buried in the back pages. No. You know, we can't work by lies. How do we win? Eventually the truth gets out. It takes time. People will see the humanitarian surge. People will see our efforts to prevent civilian casualties. People will compare what has happened here to other urban warfare sites that were not nearly as dense, as difficult without this,
Brother, other urban warfare sites still allowed journalists without murdering them. You know, they did murder some journalists. America certainly did, famously. But they still let, like, most Western press operate. Israel has not. I wonder why. I wonder if this is, like, a little bit different than regular war, which is already filled to the brim with crimes. If Israel was simply doing a just war with some crimes, or even an unjust war with some crimes that's associated with it, they wouldn't have to have this massively censorious regime.
50 meters below ground, these terror tunnels, and yet Israel will triumph, will succeed in this mission. And most of the people, I can't say 100% of the people, but most of the people are united. And ultimately, this is democracy.
So instead of shifting that argument on the media, whether it's the New York Times or maybe the Gazan Health Ministry, putting out, because you've said repeatedly in this conversation that they exaggerate, will you allow more independent reporters to go into Gaza and see it for themselves?
That's my conclusion. In fact, that's my instruction as of this morning to the military. And I said, that's exactly what you should be doing. Those who are lying are going to continue lying. But give honest journalists the ability to see the truth. The fact that we're trying to get civilian aid, humanitarian aid to the
Also, now he'll let journalists in. He won't, by the way. Newsflash, he's not going to do that. What he means is he'll allow those fucking freaks that have consistently defended Israel to do the same IDF escort with full editorial control. Remember, with full military censor, full editorial control, he will maybe allow some figures, just like they did in the past, like Douglas Murray, to go in and do stunts.
people of Gaza, the efforts that we're making there. B, to understand and explain why those buildings are destroyed, because they're booby-trapped, and we clear the population. And I'm glad you were in. I'm glad you did this thing. I'm glad, in fact, I would say you were blazing the trail. But there have been others, and we have the same result. Every time people see it, they see it in a more realistic way, in a more honest way than the way that it's presented in, unfortunately, in the New York Times and others. New York Times should be sued. I'm actually looking at whether a country can sue.
Dude, every defender of Israel has one speed. Overly litigious crybabies. Mods. Overly litigious crybabies who complain constantly that the world won't just say thank you for fucking genociding children. I do not know how a publication could be more pro-Israel while still maintaining a shred, or still trying to maintain a shred of institutional credibility. The New York Times has already dropped all of its institutional credibility because of its unlimited defense of Israel.
The New York Times, and I'm looking into it right now because I think it's such clear defamation. I mean, you put a picture of a child that's supposed to then represent all these supposedly starving children, yet they put in this picture of a child who has cerebral palsy. Then they took another picture somewhere else in other media, a child who had cystic fibrosis, got nothing to do with starvation. or another child that we actually sent to Italy to be cured, and Israel is accused.
But still, you concede there is suffering on behalf of
there is
people
suffering
in Gaza.
Yes, because Hamas is interdicting aid, exactly, and what we're doing is overcoming it. I don't deny that there's suffering. I want to end the suffering, and I want to end it by ending Hamas rule. Would you like to be governed by 20,000 armed monsters who shoot you in the back of the head if you try to leave a war zone, who shoot you if you say, I want to have my freedom from Hamas? We now have Gazans fighting Hamas. They finally have the courage to do that because they see that Israel is progressing and they think that we're going to win. So they're not afraid anymore to stand up for their own rights. And they have their separate schools, they have separate programs, because they don't want to educate their children for endless fanatic warfare, which is what Hamas is teaching. Hamas is saying, death to Israel, death to America. They hate everything that a free society stands for. And ultimately, the people of Israel understand it. And I think ultimately, the free peoples of the world will understand it.
I have one more question, but I want to clarify something if I could.
Sure.
You've said a few times now that the buildings in Rafah that we saw had tunnels underneath them.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to see that when we're there physically with our own eyes, but you're saying all these buildings were booby-trapped?
All.
And they were not hit by the Israeli Air Force?
No, what I'm saying is
because
that
it is building after building.
Well, these
house
are,
after house.
remember, these houses are emptied of population. In the beginning.
Man, how convenient, dude. They just had to blow up all those buildings. And it was actually Hamas that blew up the buildings. That's the argument. It's such an insane claim that even Fox News is like, come on, man.
The war, I remember my visit to Washington, and I was told under the previous administration, they said, there are 1.4 million people in Gaza, in Rafah, because we moved the population away from war zones, and they all concentrated in Rafah. Then we wanted to eliminate Rafah. It's like, we were told, don't go in there. And I said,
we wanted to eliminate Rafah.
It's like the Allies are, take over Germany. And finally, they're told, don't go into Berlin. Don't go into Berlin and leave the German army, 25% of the German army intact. I said, of course I have to go in. But they said, but there are all these civilians. And I said, okay, we'll make sure that they leave. In fact, they left within 6 days. They all left. And then we had to go in. It's full of terrorists in those buildings. In the streets, they booby-trap the streets, they booby-trap the buildings. So we go in and clear it away. And that's what you would do. That's actually, that's what you did. That's what you did in your war zones, too.
The reason why this point is important for me to understand is we only saw one part of Gaza. We did not see the rest of it, the town of Rafah, as I referred. Last question, sir, if I could, please. The president earlier today put on Truth Social that he wants all the Middle Eastern countries to join the Abraham Accords. Who are the holdouts?
Well, you know who we have peace with. So if you look at the other countries, they're the ones that are potential and real potential candidates for this. And I think, look, the president and I joined forces with Arab leaders and had the Abraham Accords, which were historic changes, a real change in the Middle East. We had 4 peace treaties with 4 Arab nations in a very short time. And in fact, I think that the attack on October 7th, among other things, it was meant to destroy Israel, but it was also meant to destroy the possibility of peace between Israel and the leading Arab country, Saudi Arabia. So obviously we like to see, with the elimination of Hamas and the Iran terror axis, which has been our war. Our war the last 2 years has not been with Hamas only. It's been with Iran and all its terror proxies and its attempts to develop nuclear weapons.
Other than Iran, who would be a party to this deal?
Well, Iran could be too if the people of Iran rise.
Is that an invitation?
It's been something that I think that many of them want. Many of them want to relieve themselves of that tyranny. And they openly say, I send videos to them, and I'm amazed. Bill, I'm amazed. Millions and millions of respondents from Iran, sometimes with their names their names and even their faces. You can't believe that they're doing that, but it shows you the thirst for liberation there. So, but if the liberation of Iran will happen because we delivered a very strong blow to Iran's seeming invincibility, and the people will rise from within. But who are the countries that we know we could make peace with once we finish the war in Gaza?
Yeah.
I think there are at least 5 or 6 countries here in the Middle East. And President Trump and I have talked about it a great deal. And he's been just an unbelievable partner.
When'd you talk to him last?
A few days ago.
Okay, so this week.
No, I think it was last week. I think, but we talk every week or so.
You talked to Vladimir Putin recently.
Yes.
A couple times.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
Well, I can tell you what I told him. I said that I took note of the fact that he said that Iran should not have nuclear enrichment, which is the American position, and our position. I thought that was very good, and I also said that I hoped that he'd come to an agreement with President Trump.
On Ukraine.
Right.
Why is he so bad at propaganda? Because he doesn't need to be good. Again, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing we can do about it. Also, defending Israel's monstrous actions at this stage is virtually impossible. Like, there is no expert level propaganda that you can craft. Like, the best possible thing that they could do is probably obfuscate, deny, shut off internet, which is what they're doing already, but information is still coming out. So at that point, what are you supposed to do? People see fucking dead children and shit, starving children, and all they can do is, oh, well, Hamas killed them. That's it. That's the only thing you have. The only thing you have at your disposal is but Hamas. And he just keeps saying it over and over again. The interview is just letting him talk with no pushback. I know. But the situation is so in-fucking defensible that it doesn't even matter that there's no pushback, because the average person that's even a little bit knowledgeable on this goes, oh, this is fucking bullshit. Like, I don't think that the but Hamas narrative is working. Even amongst a population of Americans that fucking despise, that actively despise Muslims and Arabs and is like, so scary. Hamas is so scary. I don't think it's working. There are plenty of people that were horrified after October 7 that were going, yeah, do as much death and destruction. That are now turning around and be like, yeah, this is fucked up.
We'll see if we get that piece.
No.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So far as we can tell, it's the first time he's been asked directly about the allegations of genocide and also the allegations of starvation in Gaza. While that's happening,
no, the Nelk Boys did it first. And not only that, but the response was the same. And you also, just like the Nelk Boys, didn't give him any pushback. I told you.
Andrew, there's also there's a lot of reaction globally, as you can imagine. Gaza is one within Gaza. Hamas, with many of their leaders in Qatar, have already responded, saying that this new offensive shows Netanyahu's aims to sacrifice the hostages and serve his own personal interests. So we're reaching that point right now where we'll get reaction from the Security Cabinet meeting and see what the next move is.
Yeah, and the Israeli Prime Minister sending obviously a very firm message on many fronts there, including the plans to occupy Gaza, but also on the humanitarian situation with the Palestinians and, of course, the fate of the hostages. Bill, what he said in response to your question about the 20 hostages who are believed to still be alive, 50 hostages still remain. We're doing everything in our power to salvage the hostages because, Bill, of course, there is so much concern from the families of those hostages that as Israel moves in, what does that mean for those hostages? And he sent a very firm message that they are doing everything in their power for them.
Yeah, and many Israelis are well aware that the closer the IDF,